Manitou Springs City Council, April 28th. It's a work session, of course. And if the city clerk would please call roll.
Give me just a second here, hang on.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Councilors, Judith Chandler.
Present.
Chada.
Here.
Julie Wolf.
Here.
Susan Wolbrook.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune.
Present.
And Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you. First time of business tonight is discussion of interview, selection, and voting processes for filling council vacancy. This is in preparation for the interview of the Ward 3 candidates next week, and that'll also include the discussion of the selection process and the voting, the appointment. So I guess I could kind of start off and give you an idea of what I had in mind when this past you. My understanding at the moment is, or as currently we have 4 applicants. I think in recent history, the city's procedure has for candidates for various positions. The procedure has been to have separate interview sessions for each candidate to ask them the same questions. Now that we're living in the age of remote meetings, that seems to me to be kind of impractical. And since a lot of the questions are, I think, going to be pretty well known before we get to the next week's interview session, my proposal would be to do this as a group, to basically have the applicants sit as a panel, and that way I think we could see them all at the same time. We could have one moderator to ask the questions, and my thought on that would be to have our city clerk Judy Morgan ask the questions. So that'd be my basic thought there. In addressing the candidates, I thought we would start alphabetically, and then as the questions proceed, we'd rotate through the candidates, give them each an opportunity to respond. The thought, and I think you all have this in your packet, we provide each applicant the opportunity to present why they consider themselves to be uniquely qualified to serve, and we'd ask what their purposes in applying for the position and their background. We'd give them each 5 minutes for opening statements. The questions that would be asked the answers would be limited to 3 minutes. And the thought, and you all, I think, all saw the sample questions. We picked 5 questions from different domains, and that would be the thought, to have each candidate respond to that. We would also allow follow-up questions based on the applicant's response. We also would need to discuss the method of voting, but I think first off, I'd like to open this up for a little discussion and see what you think of that proposal. Would anyone like to start? Okay, I guess it must be perfect.
I don't have any objections so far. I'll say that. I think I'm happy with it so far. I would like to know what the 5 questions are that we distilled it down to. But other than that, I think I'm fine with it.
Okay, good. So then we really have, we need to discuss the questions, and then we need to discuss the method of voting. So the questions, and let's see. Judy, do you have the ability to display the questions? Okay, yeah, could you put them up so we...
Sure, let me go ahead and...
Great, thank you.
There it goes.
Can you read them too, since I'm not able to get online with you guys?
Oh, sure, yeah, we can get them read.
Okay, so...
Also, while we're doing that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Judy. Julie, what's your question?
Oh, I just wasn't sure. So if each applicant is asked the same thing, I would presume, so are you just going to have like the first person answer the first question, and the next person answer the second question, and then you start over and ask, like, so that each person gets a chance to answer each question, but you don't just have the first applicant giving all of her answers or his answers to all the questions and then he's done? You're kind of rotating it through?
Yeah, my thought would be we'd ask where actually the city clerk would ask the question, and then each of the candidates would have a chance to respond to the same question. So we'd get.
Oh, and the same person would always have to go first because it's always alphabetical order?
No, I think my thought was that we'd start off alphabetically and then we'd rotate through. So.
Oh.
In question, someone else would respond to the second question. So we kind of mix up the order.
I see. Oh, that sounds good. So you don't always have the same person going first.
No, you wouldn't have one person with the advantage or disadvantage, however you want to consider it, of going first or for that matter, being the last one. We would try to mix it up. And again, thinking about this in the age of Zoom makes it a little bit more challenging than perhaps some of the methods the city's used in the past. So if the city clerk, if you'd like to go through the questions for us.
Okay, so you want me to read all of them, or do you want me to start with the ones that got selected by those that participated in picking their favorites?
Okay, I think probably since we've tried to thin it out a bit, if you would just give us the ones that have been thinned out.
Okay, very good. Okay.
The short list.
Sure. So under A, it was the first one, which is, are you aware of the time commitment and do you have the personal time to devote to this council? B,
Okay. So,
Can I ask a question about that before you go through all of them? May I do that?
well, yeah, Julie, go ahead. And then
I emailed Judy about this. I would suggest that we would get a more helpful answer if we instead of asking, do you know how much time is involved? Yeah. Are you prepared to devote that time? Oh yeah, I'm retired. Instead, I would say, how much time do you anticipate? What do you think? How much would you guess how much time would be involved? Between what and what for your average week? What are you expecting? Because obviously anyone who's going to apply is going to say, yes, I would apply if I thought I didn't have time. So it's just a little slight modification of the question, just to ask them, what do you think it'll take? How much time do you think it's going to take? And do you feel comfortable with that?
Okay. Well, what I might suggest then is that we go ahead and let the city clerk tell us what the top choices were, because a number of council people did vote on these, and then we can maybe just real quick go round robin and see what people think and possibly come back to that question. Okay. So Judy, I think we were on B, agendas, community and city issues.
yes, so that was number 8 was the top choice. That was, given the current crisis situation, what do you see as the top 3 priorities of the city?
Okay.
Under section C, it was, we had no clear winner on that one. So those were all tied.
Okay.
So we'll have to figure that one out. Under D, it was number 2. Are your views on policy compatible with the residents you would be representing? If not, are you able to make decisions based on what the majority of the residents want versus your personal agenda?
All right.
Under E is, let's make sure I'm on the right one here. Looking at a different screen here. Number 6, describe a situation when a decision was made you did not agree with but had to live with. So those were the top ones.
That was 6. Those were the top ones. And then I see there was the follow-up question, kind of generalized. Is there anything you came in prepared to tell us we did not ask you?
And I just thought that would be used. It wasn't really a choice, so.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sure.
Unless everyone decides they don't like it at all, and we can take it off the list.
Okay. So I guess what I'd like to do at this point is kind of ask councils, go around and see what people think, if they like the questions, if we need further discussion. So anyone want to start off?
This is Judith. So my first question is, are we limiting ourselves to 5 questions?
I don't think we necessarily have to. I think what we do want to think of are the time that this will take. We expect to have 4 applicants. If we ask 5 questions of 4 applicants and give them each 3 minutes to respond, there's a full hour right there.
I asked the question just because I weighed in and gave my top 5, and I think that what Judy wrote, Judy represented to us tonight were great questions, but it sounds like on a couple, I think item C, there were some ties. I think if there was a tie, perhaps we need to ask both of those questions or modify a question to include. I'm okay with limiting it to 5 or 6 questions, but Judy, didn't you say there was a tie on C, interaction with community?
There's actually 3 questions, and I believe one person did not pick something from that section, so
Okay.
1 vote for each of those 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So Judith, my sense is you want to come back and we'll sort C out, but and then your follow-on question is, are we limiting ourselves to 5? I guess my thought, and this is just my thought, was that if we have a little bit of time, possibly each council person might formulate 1 quick question, but that you can see that, if you have 6 people each asking a question, you have to really cut back on the response time that people would have. We could entertain that idea if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Councilwoman Wilbrook.
I'm okay with going forth with these 5 questions with these 4 candidates. And then I always like the last follow-on question. Is there something that you were expecting that we didn't ask you? But I think this has been a good process. Thank you, Judy, for putting it together. And I think that we could really go through and try to chisel out all these questions, but I think this process has worked, and I think it'll work fine as we go into what'll probably be a tough situation, but I think this is a good start.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Let's see, Councilman Shada.
He's muted.
Can we unmute him?
On his unmute button, and it's not.
Oh, there we go. I'm good with those questions, John.
You're good at those, okay. All righty. Mayor Pro Tem Fortune?
Yeah, I have no, I kind of like Julie's editing of the first question under time commitment, but I could go either way. And I would also think that I would like to just choose 1 from the category C. My choice was the first one on there, but I'm very open to any of the 3 under category C.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, Councilwoman Wolf, back to you. So there was the thought that perhaps you could revise that in A1 that you'd suggested a revision. Let me read it. Or would City Clerk please read question A1 back so that
Sure.
Councilwoman Wolf and all of us can hear it?
It says, are you aware of the time commitment, and do you have the personal time to devote to this council?
Okay. And
Yeah, so the answer is going to be, I'll bet you $1,000 everyone's going to say yes and yes. So that's not very informative.
no,
So
it's
that's
not.
why I thought if we ask them, hey, what do you think is going to be involved with this? It might be helpful to us. But whatever.
No, Julie, I think you make a good point, and we could go ahead and craft it right now if you'd like to. Could you repeat what you said? What?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Okay, sure.
What kind of time commitment do you anticipate will be involved if you are selected? How much time on average would you see yourself having to devote to this endeavor?
Okay, so just to repeat it back, and this is a bridge just slightly. what I jotted down here is what kind of time commitment do you anticipate would be required on the average? Would that be satisfactory?
If you are, yeah, I mean, to put it, yeah, in your role as city councilman or councilwoman, yeah, I have to put someplace in there that, yeah, with respect to this position, how much time do you expect? With respect to your role as city council person, then the rest of what you said.
Okay. So then to read it back, and now I have to read my handwriting, so bear with me. In your role as a city councilor, what kind of time commitment do you anticipate would be required on the average?
Yeah, and how does that fit into your life, or how does that work for you? It's just a slight variation on what you already have.
Right. Okay. Are there any council members who would object to using that question for question A, for category A?
I support.
Okay. Okay. Great. So I would propose that we use that question in place of the A1 that's being displayed right now in front of us. So now I guess we need to come to question C, and the one that was tied. You know, frankly, I weight them all about the same, and I can see why we ended up with a tie. So I would be good with any three of those. I believe the Mayor Pro Tem suggested C1. Do we have other opinions? And previously,
This is Judith. I would support C1 as well.
Okay. Let me put it this way. Does anyone object to C1? And I'll read that, Julie, so you know. It's question C1. What is your definition of serving the people? The topic is interaction with community.
Thank you for reading it.
You know,
Mayor, would it be helpful if I read C2 and C3 just so that?
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Would you do so, please?
Okay, so C2 is how would you deal with a member of the community who has a complaint with an action that the city has taken? Would you try to deal with it yourself, or would you encourage that person to bring the issue to the city council? And question number 3 is, how would you deal with an irate, disgruntled citizen who may call or approach you about an unpopular decision or town ordinance or complaint about town services?
Well, having heard those
Just
two
when
options,
I
those two
vote-
alternatives-
I can't see anybody.
I didn't hear what Julie said.
Oh,
Julie, you went
I
out.
was just,
I didn't hear what you said.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can.
Okay. I was saying, having heard Judy read those two alternatives, out of those three, I would prefer the one that Nancy Fortune preferred.
Okay. Hers was C1. That was what is your definition of serving the people?
Yeah, I think that's, to me, that'd be a little more interesting than, you know, the irate customer. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Then I would propose that we adopt a question for category C, interaction with the community, that we take question 1. It seems like we've moved from a tie to consensus. Okay, so I think we have the questions. And the first question for A, we would go with the verbiage that Julie had proposed. We'd have for category B, correct now, listen and correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be 8. For C, we would use C1, D2, and E6. Is that okay? I think we're all of the same understanding. Okay, so let's adopt those questions. And Judy, I wrote down the verbiage that Julie had proposed for that first question, so I have it if you don't. So I
Okay,
can
great.
get that too. Okay, so then the last piece of business regarding this is how we want to do the voting. And I think, Judy, if you could explain the options that we have in terms of voting, the selection process.
Just my information here real quick. Sorry, got all these other documents.
Oh, well, okay, I have notes in front of me. I could try it. Don't get it quite. So, okay, so there would be, we're proposing 3 options here. The first would be basically sort of a ballot approach using the Zoom voting method. We would, basically the chat feature, each council person would just type in the name of the candidate they preferred. That's pretty straightforward. And then the city clerk would announce the results. If the winner's not determined by that method, we could do a weighted score. Like 1 for first choice, 2 for second choice, 3rd for third choice. The lowest score would win. That's an alternative. If we had a tie vote on the first round, we could if we had more than 2 people, eliminate the lowest scoring person and then have a runoff between 2. That would be an option. The third option is that we go with a nomination. We have a council member makes a motion to nominate a person, we'd get a second. I think any of the methods would work. Again, this is Zoom, so it's a little bit different than if we were in council chambers.
And I think what I was proposing was we could just go down that list in that order. So with luck, we would get it taken care of with number 1, which would be just that chat function. But in the event that that's kind of like, well, if this doesn't work, then we go to the next way of doing it. If that doesn't work, we go to the next way of doing it. So.
Okay. All right, I think that sounds like a good alternative. Do we have comments from council?
I have more of a question than a comment.
Okay, Councilor Wolf.
Julie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can somebody elaborate for me on the kind of the pros and the cons, or the distinction between a weighted approach where we say first, second, third choice, as opposed to an all or nothing approach? I'm trying to think about it. I mean, maybe the weighted approach makes more sense, because that way, if there's a bunch of people who think, one person is their second choice, and if that's the primary area of agreement, that may have a different result than if you just vote for your top person. Am I thinking that through right? I need help with that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've actually seen that where the person who came out with the lowest vote was nobody's first choice. And I don't know necessarily what, in that case, council wasn't happy with that.
Yeah.
They thought that was not acceptable. So that's the.
So they kind of preferred an all or nothing approach, and at least some people are happy, instead of everybody getting like their second choice pick. Is that, I guess that's what it is? That's the distinction?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good summary. Yeah, you may not get your first choice pick on that. I'm thinking I have used a weighted score a number of times, and it can be it gets to be very involved and kind of tricky. It's different than what we normally do. So the more I think about it, the less I'm attracted to the weighted score. And I think the most straightforward thing is what we're showing is the first selection process. We basically just type in the name of using the chat function, we type in the name of the person we prefer, and hopefully we would see a majority on that. I guess an alternative would be if we had a tie on that, or we could eliminate, if there was a tie if it was a tie, say between 2 people, we'd have to do a second vote, I guess, or we could go to a nomination.
Okay.
I don't mean
that
to.
Sounds logical to me.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I just wanted to say that regardless, we're going to have a nomination once we go through this voting process. Hopefully we come up with a candidate that we're all happy with. We still have to nominate that person and vote on them.
Yeah.
So administratively, we need to do that.
Okay.
I'm correct in that, am I not, Judy?
Yes, that's correct. You need to still have a vote, so.
Okay. Well, I think my
So when are we
suggestion,
going to get these applications?
would you say that again,
Does
Julie?
anybody know when we're, I'm sorry, I was just wondering when the applications will be provided to us.
We'll have those in the council packet on Friday.
Oh, okay, so we're not going to follow through with Susan's previous suggestion? She had said that she would like them sent out as soon as they're received, and
Oh.
everybody seemed fine with that.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I guess, yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm sorry, Council. I think called for that.
All right, I just thought that would be appropriate unless Judy Morgan could tell us why it isn't done like that, or if there's some rules and regulations that.
I don't know of any rules or regulations, and I'm happy to do it. I guess I just did not get that message clearly enough to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Certainly do that.
Yeah. I think a little fuzzy on that too. Part of the intending of having was kind of why we picked a deadline on Wednesday.
Either way is fine with me. I was just trying to stand up for Susan.
I'm sorry. Okay. I think it might be easier on the city clerk if we, allowed it to be in the council packet on Friday. Would anybody have an objection not getting it before the council packet?
Well, I guess one of the reasons I guess I don't understand the process about, so it won't be available for the Pikes Peak Bulletin deadline tomorrow. And I guess that would be, I would just think there'd be more interest from the public if the Pikes Peak Bulletin knew who the nominees were by their deadline, and that might generate more enthusiasm for this process for next Tuesday. But I'm speaking off the top of my head, and maybe there's some of you who understand why I wouldn't want to do that, why we wouldn't want to do that. One of my biggest issues about filling this vacancy in a time of COVID and Zoom meetings is, lack of public participation.
Right.
It's nice to see that we have 4, applicants, which is great, but I just worry about public participation, and I feel like it won't be in the bulletin this week at all, and then it'll be in the bulletin after it's a foregone conclusion. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
That's how the timing would work.
I'm just asking the rest of the people to weigh in about I'm 1 of 7 or 1 of 6 now, and I just don't know if I feel good about that public lack of transparency, for lack of a better word. So if there's some reason we didn't want to do that, I'd like to know what that reason is and how other councils do it, and maybe what the law is about that or the pitfalls of it. And I'd also like to know if anybody else feels strongly against what I'm proposing.
I find it personally persuasive, Susan, because I agree that the more we're willing to give information to the public, the happier they are, and the more fair it is, whether they choose to come down or take a stand or not. But people do like to be informed about what we're doing. So if it is feasible, that's very persuasive to me.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I wish that hadn't occurred to me previously, and you might have brought it up before, but I didn't just catch on. But I would think, first of all, I don't know if people are reading the Pikes Peak Bulletin as much as they have, unless they're going into town and picking it up, but just because it's a little harder to get it right now because people aren't in town that much. Secondly, I know that the city can put it extensively on the webpage. Facebook and Nextdoor. So it's not perfect, but I would hate now to say, we've already publicized that we're planning to make the decision on Tuesday. I would kind of hate at this point to go back on that.
Right. Denise?
If council so chose, we could do a quick press release tomorrow with the names, send it out, and then make sure it's on our Facebook and website. And Judy, if there wasn't a reason, if you felt that it was appropriate, you could scan everything in and send it to all the council members tomorrow.
I have no problem with that. Just a little FYI, we did put the deadline as close of business tomorrow.
Okay.
Right.
I know that that would definitely exclude the bulletin as far as.
And if it goes in a press release, it can still go in the Gazette at least.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could get that out, maybe not tomorrow, but we would get it out on Thursday morning since it's the close of business tomorrow.
Okay. Well, possibly you could provide the bulletin with the information we have and say it's current, and it could change a little bit, but they'd be able to announce the names of the 4 people and do whatever, if they had time to do a quick interview or something, that would give them an option.
I don't
Denise?
I don't know if we would want to put 4, and then if a 5th comes in and they don't get the
Okay.
be mentioned, I don't know. That's you guys' call, but I think there could
Yeah.
be concern with that. But we could get it out as soon as at close of business, we could contact the bulletin and say if at 5:05 we give you the names, would that work? And I don't know if it would, but we could check with them.
Okay. What does that?
I think that's a great idea. I like that idea, what Denise said. That's great. Just do the best we can.
Okay. All right. If that sounds reasonable, okay. Is anybody opposed to that approach? Okay. Looks like we're good. Okay, so let's take that direction. Okay, Denise, Judy, if you would do as was just suggested. Okay. Then I think we have finished that topic. I think we've got a strategy for how we're going to approach the voting or the evaluation, the interviews, and the voting next week. All right. So, okay, the second item of business is a discussion on the Manitou Springs Incline. The title actually says proposed plan to open Manitou Springs Incline. I think maybe I'm the one who suggested the word open, and I think that's probably a little bit of a misnomer. Consideration of the incline situation may have been a better set of terms to use. We're going to have a presentation from Mr. Cheney, who's been working on this. I would like to mention a couple things before we get started. We want to let Roy go ahead and go through his presentation. There's a lot of material here. My understanding is that we also have had a core request to get even more information. So there's going to be, it appears there'll have to be follow-on work to this, but that'll be probably somewhat in the future. I've also been looking at ways to try and do remote meetings efficiently in the age of the COVID virus. And many jurisdictions, and I've noticed this with like Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments or one of those meetings that I go to on the web, that they typically will mute everybody but the speaker. So this seems an opportunity to experiment with that and try it. So Roy is going to have the exclusive floor. He'll go ahead and do his presentation. Regarding comments, we have had several letters sent to us. I know some of them, everybody. So we've asked the city clerk to go ahead and chronicle all those letters. If you get a letter from a constituent that you want to have included as part of the record, please forward it to Judy Morgan, and she'll include that. I know we've received correspondence from Jay Beaton, Dave Wolverton, and a couple other people at least, and you may know of more. So if you have additional people, please go ahead and again forward those communications to Judy.
May I ask something about that before I get muted?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Julie.
I've been asked by Dave Wolverton to literally read his letter into the record, to literally read it, because his explanation to me was something about, not everybody who's listening in is on the internet or has the savvy to go back and figure out how to find packets or emails that are made part of the packet, you know, a month later when the minutes are being reviewed or whatever. So I said, I'd be glad to read your letter into the record if I'm permitted to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request. What I guess I would like to do, anticipated this, but before Roy gets that reading, and then we'll go ahead with Roy's presentation. I do think it's going to be fairly involved, and we also expect that there's going to be the need to come back and visit this again, probably in May, because of the amount of time that's involved. Consequently, I'm going to ask you to hold your questions, write them down, and email them to Roy so that he has an opportunity to respond. You know, with the, I mean, he needs to have some time. City staff's been slammed with a lot of requests for information and so forth lately. So we'll, the order of business here will be, we'll have Julie read Mr. Wolverton's letter, and then the floor will go over to Roy. And please take notes, and your questions and comments should then be emailed to Roy here in the next few days. So that said, Julie, are you prepared to read Mr. Wolverton's letter?
Well, I'm looking forward, but in fact, isn't it more like Judy's usually the one who reads things into the record in this situation? I don't want to be procedurally improper.
Well, okay, I think either could do it. Let's see. Judy, do you have access to that letter easily? If not, I think I can find it pretty quickly.
I'm looking for it right now, so if you don't mind, I can just. Okay.
Oh, I found it. Do you want me to read it?
I found it as well, but.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay. I guess if the city clerk would go ahead and read the letter.
Sure. It says, Dear City Council, a review of the City Council 428 work session agenda indicates the City of Colorado Springs and the Friends of the Incline are contributing a PowerPoint presentation for this item. There's no indication of representation from Manitou Springs citizens listed on the agenda. The optics appear biased in favor of special interest representation of Incline users. As a 32-year resident of Manitou Springs, I object to the absence of citizen input on this agenda item. City Council work sessions typically deny any public input. Regular sessions limit citizens to 3 minutes. A fair hearing on this item would allow equal opportunity for all stakeholders. Manitou Springs was founded and markets itself today as a health and wellness community. The bathhouses of yesterday have transitioned into today's vibrant spa and wellness community centered around Manitou's mineral springs. One justification for legalizing the Incline back in 2012 was the notion that it would augment the health and wellness effort. The Incline is a high-impact fitness activity causing degradation to the environment and the quality of life to residents living in Rexton Canyon. The average daily usage is 1,000 users with a maximum daily use of over 2,800 users. 5 porta potties are on site to provide sanitary restroom accommodations rated at 50 users per day each. None of the porta potties have hand washing facilities. The COVID-19 pandemic health advisors have indicated that hand washing and social distancing is paramount to curbing the spread of the coronavirus. Since no permanent restrooms with proper hand sanitation facilities are available, Incline users and social distancing for 1,000 to 2,800 daily users is virtually impossible, reopening the Incline during the COVID-19 pandemic is dangerous and undermines the health and wellness branding of Manitou Springs. Furthermore, when incidents occur, Manitou's first responders are often tasked with search and rescue operations on the Incline, putting them at risk of COVID-19 exposure. Parking and transportation management of Incline users is twofold. Users can park for free at Hiawatha Gardens and ride the shuttle, which has very limited social distancing capabilities. Or users park where facilities are available and walk to the incline trailhead. The second option typically adds pedestrian traffic on narrow Rexton Avenue, where sidewalks are generally congested during times of average incline usage. Rexton Avenue has very little room for social distancing, and resident pedestrians during the closure have had to walk in traffic lanes when meeting others walking in the opposite direction to maintain 6-foot distancing. Reopening the incline will only make pedestrian traffic along Rexton more chaotic and unsafe. Clearly, the incline is not facilitated or configured to be safely opened back up during a pandemic. It puts citizens and patrons in the downtown corridor, along with residents living in Rexton Canyon, responders at unnecessary risk. Beginning Monday, 4/27, issued the Safer at Home phase of pandemic in Colorado. Many residents living in Rexton Canyon are either working from home, been furloughed, subject of layoffs, or experiencing the loss of employment due to the pandemic. Adding more people recreating in Rexton Canyon compromises a safe at-home effort intended by the governor. It is the Manitou Springs City Council's responsibility to protect the citizens of this community. Reopening the incline would be a reckless act that would put the health and wellness of Manitou Springs citizens at risk. Sincerely, Dave Wolverton.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Julia, you can go ahead and let David Wolverton know that the letter was read and will be part of the record. Thank you. Okay. At
Thank you
point,
very much. Thank you.
Certainly, certainly. At this point, Mr. Cheney will take the floor and he will give us his presentation. Roy, you're on.
Thank you. Do you all see the slideshow okay?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
All right, thank you. Just the purpose of, Mr. Mayor and Council, the purpose of this presentation tonight is to provide some options on the incline due to the COVID outbreak closure, just to assist you in decision-making. And at the end, it's your decision to decide to open or keep the incline closed. We know there's many variables involved in the decision process. We want to apologize for not getting the information out earlier, but there was a lot of things we had to look over and people we had to talk to figure out all the challenges of the incline. So from data from the past meetings to even current COVID guidelines made it a pretty hard task to try to get together for today. But Dole Grebenik, our engineer, and myself did our best to come up with some ideas at least. But in the end, it's just our job to give you some ideas, and in the end, it's council's responsibility and using their wisdom to decide on how we go forward with the incline. I do want to, my quote above there, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, probably doesn't hold truer for the incline. Just the fact that we have to take steps to trying to make things right and make it work. Also, people tell me it feels like 1,000 miles, even though it's 1 mile. So, all right, I will go on with the presentation. The COVID incline opening plan, we have come up with 2 options. Option 1, open the incline, but align with the governor's conditions and recommendations. And number 2, keep the incline closed. One of the big things that they're talking about, and if you see the poster on the side, if you take a car, the park is too far. And the idea is that
Roy, we can't see the next one. Roy, we can only see the first. We're not seeing the other one.
Okay, hold on, sorry. Does anyone see the second one?
No,
Okay, hold on.
no, I'm still got the first.
How are we looking now?
I can see the second slide, but it's, you know, it's smaller. it's not displayed full screen, and it shows the next slide as well, and just small like a postage stamp. But it's workable.
You have it in like the presenter's mode of what the presenter sees rather than the public, the audience.
Okay, give me 1 minute here. Sorry for the delay. Let me,
We're
technology.
We're all learning. This is.
You start slideshow from first slide, usually helps. And then you can use your arrows.
There you go. It's working now, Roy.
Okay. Yeah, looks good.
Roy, you're muted. Roy, you're muted.
All right, there we go. And I didn't mute it. I really didn't. So, okay. All right. Let me try one more time here. The opening, 2 options. Number 1, open the incline, but align with governor's conditions and recommendations. Number 2, keep the incline closed. And that poster on the right is kind of what the messaging would be. You know, if you take your car, the park is too far. The idea is that you stay local, you stay close, you stay where you can walk to a park. And so that would be some of the messaging that we should be doing in all areas, in all parks in town. On the next slide, we're looking at option number 1. That's open the incline with a phased approach. So what we're looking at here is phase 1, if the state announces a stay-at-home order, the incline closes or remains closed. That's currently where we're at right now, or we were at last week. So if we go back to phase 1 with the state, we would go back to close the incline. As we look at the option 1 with phase 2, it would be opening with Colorado safer at home guidelines. Possibly, most people will still stay home. Based on the numbers on the incline now, I do think it's more than half that are home at this point or staying away from the incline. So that would be the hope that they would continue to do so. Public gatherings of 10 persons or more are prohibited. We would post signs to indicate that. And if the trailhead experiences a queue, messaging will remind people to keep their distance, to let the queue empty out, and we will go over ways that would be done. As we look into continuing to phase 2, we would implement the 6-foot distance policy and face masks at the incline trailhead. The idea is to put paint markings and stakes in the ground to indicate 6-foot social distancing, so people know how far to stand as they're waiting to go up the trailhead. And along the trailhead itself, consider putting markings or stakes so people know how to stay about 6 feet apart. Talking with the Incline Friends, they had a program that they were talking about for several years, the ambassadors, Incline ambassadors. We did find the city of Seattle with a good example of a program, SDAs, which are social distancing ambassadors. And they basically would be volunteers who offer reminders to follow the current rules. And they would be scheduled at peak times as we determine those with the incline counter. They would also enforce and try to enforce going up the incline only and down bar trail to try to continue that social distancing. And they'll remind them that violations of the above rules would result in incline closure. At any time, if we feel that rules weren't being abided by, then we would make that understood that it could mean the incline closes once again. As we continue with phase 2, we could also look at, this was the idea of the Incline Friends, and they've been involved for the last 6 years. So we thought this was very interesting and maybe something that could help reduce the traffic up there even after COVID. But looking at ways as they're members of these incline clubs that the last names like A through K used incline on Mondays and Wednesdays, and L through Z used on Tuesday, Thursdays, for example. Fridays would be a stagger system, and then you look at Fridays through Sundays, flipping those around and making it fair for everyone on times from morning or afternoon times. This would be posted on their website and also other media on who's up on the incline to try to control the number of people that come there. We do know that there's, whether the visitors and others won't see this, but again, even a 20% decline there or 50% or whatever this could help with is always is something to consider to help with traffic going up to the incline and on the incline itself. Enforcement, again, the SDAs would maybe ask the CIDs. There's no legal authority there, obviously. But again, one of the things, if we don't follow the rules, then no one can use the incline. And this only works if we work together. So people understand this is a team effort. It's trying to make it fair for the citizens that live in Manitou Springs, since that's where all the traffic comes into. And I do think, there's always going to be people who maybe don't, but there's also a lot of people that do respect and try to follow the rules. Based on some of the numbers right now, Dole and I believe that it could be a 50% reduction just with this kind of information going out and approach. Again, we have nothing to prove that at this point, but with numbers today already, with the incline being announced as closed, it has dropped quite a bit. In phase 3, if the state goes to protect our neighbor guidelines, we would still use phase 2 applications where necessary, and that would have to be looked at by council if we wanted to ease up on some restrictions if things are going well or not. It will still be restricted by your last name, because that could be a kind of a permanent thing for a while, unless we come up to some management program otherwise. And then, of course, we can always look if it's safer to socialize more normally. As long as they take precautions, we can look at how we can loosen up on some of the guidelines themselves of how close they're standing together. On protecting your neighbors, the one thing we'd have to always consider is protections for our vulnerable populations. So we're still going to always push for masks, at least as they're waiting in line as they go up the incline, of course. If we promote only going up, and then it wouldn't be as big a deal as if the masks do come off at some point, because they will be alone and distancing up the incline. Again, violations will result in incline closure, and that will be stressed constantly as we look at these phases. The option 2 is keeping the incline closed. We could keep it closed until we get an active management plan in place. Dole and I have reached out with Colorado Springs and the Forest Service, and we continue to have talks with them on just trying to reestablish what we need from them from the incline. And I will tell you, they've been very receptive in trying to make it work. So we feel really positive about the last several weeks of interactions with them. We feel that we're on the right track, and soon can bring information to council so you can make a good decision. So the one thing we're looking at is trying to look at lessons learned from other overused natural resources, such as Hanging Lake. We had a meeting with them as well, and it went really well to figure out how they helped control their nice lake out there. And so far, it's been working really well. So we're looking at those kind of ideas for possibly the future in Manitou too, so we can, again, make sure that we're taking care of the citizens and Ruxton and the traffic issues. As we go on to documents themselves, there is a social distance ambassador document. Also the incline counts. And if we can go to that, if hopefully it works, there we go. The incline counts show in 2019 and 2020, we see a pretty big drop from last year to this year, basically with the rules that were applied in the incline closure. These are from the counter on the incline itself. So it's been a good decline in numbers up there. And I know several times as I've been up there and others, it's been a lot quieter than usual. So that's good news there. There we go. And then if we look at the social distancing document, basically and I did share this with the Incline friends, but they would come up with, and we would revise this for our needs. And basically telling people how to talk to others, how to get their cooperation, And it's, I know you all have that as well, was sent out a little bit earlier today to look at. But we would revise this for our needs to help with management of the incline itself. Future plans. Right now, we're talking with Colorado Springs, Karen Palace and Kurt Schroeder and our Oscar Martinez from Forest Service have been very receptive to ideas, and we're really trying to come up with some plans, and of course would always present those to the public and council when we have those ready. Again, it's been very early on, and Dole has done a lot of legwork on this, and it's much appreciated on the bridge that he's building with them. Bill Beagle from Incline Friends also was very responsive in trying to make something work. And I believe everyone understands how crucial this is for the city of Manitou Springs. We have the Ruxin functionality study, which recently was delivered, so we're looking at that as well. We're talking with the COG, trying to figure out mobility hub opportunities. Several meetings, like I said, have taken place, and we're looking at the IGA for the incline and what's next in the phases. Again, Hanging Lake has been talked to, and that was about a 3 or 4 hour meeting going over how they did everything to make that program work out there. And we're really ready to see what we can do. And oops, I went a little too far there. Maybe I was at the last page almost. Okay. All right, so in the end, I apologize for not getting this information out sooner. It is a lot of information, and we as a staff understand how critical it is that we look at this very seriously. Dole and I are committed, and as all city staff is, to make things best we can with this incline in the future. We are not suggesting, which I on the memo said, I think May 18th, we're not suggesting that be the opening date of the incline. That was kind of a date there and after that we can consider it based on the information, what city council decides, and we will honor that request. So what we request at this point is that you send Dole and myself any questions and concerns from the presentation or from the past or from the present on the incline, or even future concerns, so that he and I can look into that and come back to you on May 26th council meeting to address those the best we can and go from there. I appreciate your time tonight, so thank you very much.
Am I
Yep.
still muted?
No, you're not. You're not, Judy, but Mayor Pro Tem has her hand up. So floor recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Roy. It's so good to see that staff is really engaged. I think it's the first time that we've had this much staff engagement on the incline since Dan Folk was our planning director. So I just feel so much better now about where we're kind of headed with it. Secondly, because we did just get this today, we didn't have a chance to review it. My recommendation would be is that given that things continue to be a fast-moving target on everything COVID related, that we take our time, put a news release or whatever out there that the incline will remain closed at least until May 26th, when we will readdress it, to give you guys more time to come up with a solid plan and for us to think more about what our questions are and our concerns and submit them to you. I think we've had from the public some really good stuff, both pro and con opening it. I know the businesses, quite a few of the, as we saw last week, quite a few of the businesses desperately want it open, and quite a few residents want it open, but quite a few businesses and residents don't want it open. So that's why we get paid the big bucks to make those decisions. So anyway, that would be my recommendation, is that we not spend a whole lot of time on it tonight, but go ahead and submit our questions to you guys and put out a release that we will maintain the closure at least until May 26th as we assess what's happening in our state and the nation with COVID.
Right. And yes, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Cheney. I appreciate that. It was well done, and I'm encouraged a lot. I think also to follow on Mayor Pro Tem's comments, I think members of the public who have concerns or questions could email their questions to Mr. Cheney, or they could mail them to any council member, and we forward them to Mr. Cheney. So I realize in this time of not being able to get together, and to echo Councilwoman Wilbrook's concerns about trying to reach out and touch someone in an age when you're not supposed to, if we could channel the interests of the public to Mr. Cheney, that would be good. Denise, you have your hand up?
I just want to mention, if we do a press release, we wouldn't want to say till at least May 26th, because the decision would have to be made at a council meeting, because it's part of the executive's, emergency order. So I think we would have to change the verbiage of that and maybe just say we're going to be looking at it on May 26th.
26th. That's a good point. Councilwoman Wilbrook? I'm sorry. Judy, could you unmute Councilwoman Wilbrook?
That's me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, could you start over?
I'll learn this right as we finish up using Zoom, I swear. So I just want to thank staff, Roy and Dole. This is great work. It's definitely, I echo all of Mayor Pro Tem Fortune's comments. I don't want to repeat them. There's two things I do want to mention. The first is that I noticed that Karen Paulus and others from Colorado Springs Parks are on this call, and I really appreciate you being on this call, all of you. That's really great, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. And my second thing that, I mean, I can send this question in, but it seems like an oversight, and maybe you just missed it, but some of the biggest concerns we had in the first meeting was the porta potties, people not using porta potties, and also sanitation, like no sanitation stations. And I just kind of wanted to, we don't have to talk about it and get in the weeds about it, but I really noticed that was missing from this, and I'm sure that's just an oversight, because that's a big issue for people. And that's my comments. Thank you.
I can real quick on that, and I apologize. We did talk about that later. I was waiting for information from the porta potty company, but they do offer wash stations, and we are looking at being able to put those out by the porta potties, which would be great, whether there and Hiawatha and any other place. So we are looking at those, and they do have them, which is great. And then porta potties themselves, we're talking about expanding cleaning of those with Colorado Springs. And they're receptive to that as well.
Thank
Good
you.
question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The other thing is that I did send council an article that talked about social distancing when you're hiking, biking, or walking. And I'd like to see that rolled into, I don't know how vetted that study was, but that should play into the further discussions about how to safely do a really hard trail.
Okay. Good. Good. Well, thank you. I think, Mr. Cheney, you have.
May I have an opportunity to speak?
I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, Councilwoman Wolf, you have the floor.
I can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. And I completely agree with Nancy's approach to let's just talk about this more thoroughly when we have more time on the 26th. And I really agree with Susan's concerns about the porta potties, because whether you have a wash station or not, you know, they're only supposed to have so many people per porta potty, and it doesn't work when you have, you know, thousands of people using one porta potty. But mostly what I wanted to say here with respect to a comment that I think Roy made, I wrote it down. He said there's no legal authority over there, obviously. And a couple of comments on that is, one, you know, we just did pass that emergency ordinance last Tuesday that our attorney drafted for us, that in fact does have legal authority over there. And I just wanted to make sure that not only Roy, but especially our police department is aware of that ordinance. Did anybody talk to them about that?
Mr. Cheney wants to respond there, Julie. Mr. Cheney?
Yeah, Mrs. Wolf, so that was in regards to the ambassadors. They will not have legal authority, but yes, they could contact the police department if there's a violation of the rule, which if the incline is closed or those rules that were stated up there. So yes, there are rules and there are legal consequences, but that was strictly for the ambassadors who would be volunteers just trying to educate on social distancing.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for explaining that. So the police know about our emergency ordinance from last Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Oh, good. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you,
Okay.
Roy.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Roy. And please express our appreciation to all the people you've worked with. We know it's been a team effort, so we look forward to seeing more results.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Very good. Great.
Right.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Great. So now we can get on to our third item for the evening, and that's it's a report on plans for reopening the city, how we're going to step back to the new normal. And Denise, I believe, is going to walk us through this. Again, we're going to try this new protocol of she'll have the floor exclusively. So Denise, if you're ready, we're all ears.
You bet. Judy, can you please ask Leslie to join as a participant? And also Superintendent Elizabeth Domingue come in. If you could ask both of them because they will be presenting also.
I've just brought them over. So
Okay.
I'm looking, I've got Leslie over. Where did she go? Hang on. Lost her here. Okay, I'm not sure where she went. So
Did you bring them both over?
well, yeah, there she is. Hang on. We gotta wait for this to do its thing. Get her to start her video.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Mhm.
Okay, before I do my presentation, I just want to say that I really appreciate the school district and the business all working together. We've been meeting on a pretty regular basis, talking about how does this work, how we can support each other, and how do we support the residents, the community, the visitors, and forward. So with that, I'm going to move first with the school district and ask, and Elizabeth, I'll butcher your last name, so I'm not going to try. I'll just
Domingue.
you do a quick introduction and what you are planning, and then we'll move to the business, and then I'll talk about the city.
Great. Elizabeth Domingue, Superintendent for Manitou Springs School District. Mayor Graham and City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to talk with you tonight. And I'll kind of keep it concise, and if there's questions that you have afterwards, I'm happy to answer any of those. Just to start, thank you, Denise, for your leadership and ability to be just available and responsive to the needs, and also to all of the members of the team of the city. It's something that we have been so grateful for as we move through the plan, and just know that we're able to pick up a phone and just be able to have responsiveness. And I just thank you for your team and the leadership and the guidance as we're working through so many different things. So, and also to council, appreciate all that you're doing to keep the city moving and going forward, and your optimism and positivity and solutions. So thank you to that. Just to start, one of the important things that we try to direct our community to is our MSSD remote learning website. And so this has been a really comprehensive place for parents, for community members, for staff. And there is also some significant links to mental health opportunities and how our counselors are supporting our students and families. Partners for Healthy Choices, thank you to the City Council for ongoing support of Partners for Healthy Choices. It's been a significant opportunity for us to continue to provide resources and opportunities to families who need us during this time. So this is a spot where we consistently connect folks to. And then also, Judy, I have the website. The PowerPoint. I don't know if you want to share it at
Okay,
all.
yes, I was ready, just waiting for you to give me that cue. So I will go ahead
Okay, perfect. Thank you,
and
Judy.
get started. And things popping up here, and then let me just get it.
I'll be on the second slide when you're.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so that's the link to the website. We keep on directing folks to that spot so that you have it. We're participating in the weekly joint information committee, the JIC, and our security consultant director, Janie Anderson, along with our health, our nurses, Lee and Sharon and Alice Barnett. They're consistently sources of medical expertise for us, and they're participating in lots of different calls. And so as we're developing plans for things like graduation, pickup and delivery of different items, we're constantly checking in with them. As we all know, the orders are changing constantly, and they're dependent on the sector that you're serving. And so I know that Leslie and Denise and everyone else are thinking about different things. We're also thinking about the public health issue and also educating our kiddos, because they're still in school and our staff are still working very, very hard. And so thankful for what they're doing. We have weekly Pikes Peak Region Superintendent meetings, and this is a good time for us to collaborate and make sure that we're in line and that what's coming up, that we're thinking about that in both a local and a regional perspective. Additionally, we have councils around what is best practices right now, and things are changing constantly. And we really do think about that and how that affects the city, because those are our kids, our students, our families, and also making sure that we're making decisions that are responsible and caring and thoughtful along the way. How do we think about the stress or communicate sooner or later? We're ordering personal protective equipment, definitely not stockpiling it, but we have some big events that are coming up in terms of, like I said, graduation and other things, closing the school year. And so we're really thinking about that now. We're also thinking about, what does the beginning of next school year look like? So how do we prepare our bus drivers and our transportation folks for making sure we have thermometers ready to go for those different situations. So we are also participating in the FEMA reimbursement process. We all know that we don't know exactly what's going to be reimbursed, but we're taking really good documentation of how we're saying this is purchased outside of what we would typically be needing to do right now. And then I'm a part of the Manitou Springs Economic Recovery team, and I appreciate being a part of those different groups, and also just letting the community know that as a school district, we have some good opportunities, some great opportunities that are not just limited to our students and our staff. We also have some opportunities for families. So yeah, Judy, if you'll advance it, that'd be great. So opportunities to engage and learn. One of the things that I think we're super proud of, I know we're super proud of the fact that when this all happened very quickly, Manitou Springs School District was one of the first school districts in the region to really mobilize and be very agile to be able to provide remote learning. And so I share that because we have two versions. We have e-learning, and then we have paper pencil options. So the school district about 10 years ago really invested in some opportunities for technology to be in kids' hands. And so that was easy to deploy. Our fifth grade to 12th grade already had these devices. And then we were also able to get our third graders and fourth graders the same technology so that they could access those. For families who can't, we have options for paper and pencil pickup, paper and pencil packet pickup. Today I was at Manitou Springs Elementary School, and our principal, Russ Vogel, he was meeting families who needed certain things, and the front office staff are making those copies. We're mailing them home. We have processes for them to return so that we're safe. I share these things because I think it's really indicative of the type of community that we are in, and I'm so thankful to be a part of that. We're calling parents, we're staff check-ins, mental health check-ins for our students and our families. Our staff are recording lessons that can then be replayed and created. They're super creative. If you have an opportunity to go to that remote learning website, I think you'll be pleased to see what opportunities are there. We're providing special education services, advanced learning plans, and Section 504 meetings. This has been a real nuance of this whole COVID response, but we have really never tried to make any excuses and tried to really do the best we can with the situation that we're in, and knowing that we consistently can get better along the way. We have creative ways to stay connected. For example, our high school are mailing out postcards and those things. So this is just about just the background of the learning and engagement opportunities. I can't thank our staff enough for just their ability to be so creative, thoughtful, and really just leans into our core values of relationships, deep learning, and opportunity. And just, I think, knowing that our community is behind our students and our staff is huge. So thank you for that. Thank you, Judy. So some big things I think that you all should know about, we're planning for some upcoming events. We have May 11th, a senior drop-off and pickup. This will probably, when we're thinking about numbers and increase of traffic, this is really important because this is going to happen at the high school. And like I said, I'm very thankful for the fire department, for the police department, for the El Paso County Health Department, our district nurses, just because we know that this is going to be an increase of traffic in our community. And so we are really thinking through all the processes around, like I said, temperature check, what social distancing, masks, gloves, do we need to have some type of clothing on that protects us in those ways. So thank you for that. This is a constantly changing plan, because if an order comes out that we need to now readjust, we need to be able to do that. So we really are saying that things are as strong as we can make them, but they also are subject to change based on the new information that comes out. Graduation right now is planned for May 17th. You may have read in the paper this morning that there's a new expectation that our tentative plans are approved by 3 different hospitals. We're working through that now. I will say that also in the same vein as the May 11th event, we're working with fire and police department. I was also talking to Leslie today about, once our plan is approved, that how can we really be thoughtful about what that means for our business community and engage in those ways. So we have some creative ideas. We feel like we have a safe plan, but at the same point, we're going to make sure we follow the rules and also make sure we're unique to Manitou. We have a great opportunity to show and highlight how special we are. Just to kind of go through some dates that are important is the 19th to the 21st. And you're saying, well, this is so specific to the school district. It really can impact the amount of people who are in the city. And so that's why our communication with the city is so important. For example, those pickup and drop-offs are happening at Manitou Springs High School, the middle school, and elementary school. So we have to think about traffic patterns. We have to think about all of these different protective equipment. And like I said, this is all subject to change, but we're working closely with the city. So thanks again. And then our last day of staff with staff is on the 22nd. So thanks, Judy. I just thought it would be important for you to see kind of the thinking that we're having at all of our schools for every single thing that we're doing. So traffic is in one way. Each of these is different stations. There are certain number of people at each of these stations. Once we pick up, let's say the iPad, we put them into a spot and then we have to clean them. We let them sit for 72 hours before anyone else touches them. So really, really very complicated, but also, like I said, a collaborative experience. And we know that our city folks will also be supporting us with this. Thank you, Judy. Some things that I don't have to go through all of these, but I think it's important to focus on that. Like I said, our core values around relationships, deep learning, and opportunity are really ground us. And one of the main things that we said is that we want to continue our strong relationships, and those core values are around what that matters, how we're going to accomplish that. So student connection, and then a continuity of learning. And so our counselors, our social workers, our school psychologists are continuing to stay involved. We're continuing our responsibility as mandatory reporting. You may have read in recent articles that there has been a decrease in DHS reporting, but we are still seeing that some of our staff are having to do that even through a remote way. It's really tricky, and also thinking about the impact for our staff to be doing that right now in a time where they don't get to see the child the next day and they don't have that kind of touch point. And so we're trying to support them through that. But we still are mandatory reporters. That never stops as a responsibility. We're monitoring Safe to Tell, and this is something that's really important in our partnership with the police department and fire. and El Paso County Sheriff's Department. So a safe to tell tip comes in, and we have multiple people who monitor those: principals, assistant principals, myself, our CFO, our assistant superintendent, our district security director, and we can really see how those things are going through. We have seen a decline in those safe to tell tips. Typically over the school year, we might see one a day, one every other day, but probably since COVID has started, we have only seen, I want to say probably 4 or 5. So I've talked to folks before. I don't know if that's necessarily that people don't feel comfortable, but we also see that kids are spending more time with their families in maybe some positive and productive ways. We also know that there is more social isolation, and that we're really looking through how do we navigate that. And also, like I said, our mental health team is constantly checking in with students. Those are some other things, and we're just trying to stay positive because this is some really important work, and that continuity, relationships, consistency, and it's really all about the perspective that we bring to it. We know we're going to have some challenges along the way, but every problem is an opportunity for us to get stronger as a school district and as a community. So thank you, Judy. A Partners for Healthy Choices, as I said, the city has supported for several years, and we still have our food pantry. In fact, we moved all of our food pantry items from the elementary school into our district conference room so that we can have easy access. Our families in need can reach out to Jane Squires or Angela Geek through a PHC, and we're happy to, we're making deliveries for families. And then also, if anyone wants to make any donations, food donations, they can drop them off at Silk. Monetary is easier because then we can purchase things and not have to go to the store or anything like that. We are still providing breakfast and lunch meals Monday through Friday, and those are happening at Manitou Springs High School and also Ute Pass Elementary School. So please, if there's anyone that you know that has a child 18 to 0, if they come to our school, we'll give them a meal without any question, and that is every Monday through Friday from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock. It's a great lunch. It's healthy, and also we just got approved to continue this program through June 30th, and that's the first time Manitou Springs School District will have a summer program, and we're happy about that opportunity. Thank you to Paula and her team from nutrition. They are out there every single day practicing temperature checks, social distancing, all of those things. So thank you to that team. Thanks, Judy. Some things that, just so you know, that we're thinking about, as I said, the end of year is a big part. You can think of each of these as stages, and so, or phases. So end of year is a phase, summer month is a phase, and back to school is another phase. And within each of those, there are stages. So right now we see ourselves in phase 2 of stage 1. And so soon, when we start transitioning to end of year, we'll be in stage 1, phase 3, because as those stages are overlapping, we're constantly thinking about, okay, what does summer months include and what does back to school include? And so that is a visual that we'll be creating, and Natalie Johnson, one of our board members, shared a great graphic that we're going to be creating as a school district. So I'm just thinking about that. But in phase 1, we're planning, phase 2, we're implementing, and phase 3, we're sustaining. And at the same time, we're constantly evolving around what's working best and depending on what the guidance is at the time. Thank you, Judy. So the last thing I'll share is just thank you to our community. I want to thank the Manitou Springs Education Foundation, the city of Manitou Springs. They have supported that every one of our lamp posts in town, from the start of town on the east side to the west side, the lamp post will have one of our seniors on both sides of the banner just recognized. And so those should be going up pretty soon. I know that those are being printed now. That is really a joint collaboration between community, the foundation, donors who contribute to that foundation, the city. I know Public Works is going to be participating, and then also our seniors and our senior class. So that's my information for you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks,
Oh, we're
Elizabeth.
muted.
Say it's a joy to work with you, and we are all together. We are helping and supporting. And I
I like that.
reached out and I said, anything we can do for the seniors, because they've been through a lot this year and they are definitely troopers. We had Westboro and now we have this, and anything that we can do to support them and let them know that we want to celebrate with them and we're proud of them, we are willing to do such. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
If no questions, I'll turn it over to Leslie. And she has been working, I know, with the businesses and talking about a comprehensive plan of how the businesses could open and what's the messaging. I know Alex, our PIO, has been working with them also to really have a comprehensive plan as we move forward. So Leslie, are you?
I
And-
am. For some reason, my camera's not coming on, so I apologize for that. But first, I want to echo what Elizabeth said about the partnership that with the school and also with the city, and the support of those organizations for the business community has been critical and much appreciated. Much of the business reopening plan is actually dictated by the governor's office and by the Colorado Public Health Department. And so there was a partial in your packets, and then the governor came out with new regulations yesterday. So it is still a moving target, and this really applies only to the retail community. The restaurant community is still under the takeout and curbside deliveries only. And that will continue until at least the middle of May to be reevaluated then. So we still don't know what that looks like and when that happens. I'm sure the governor's office will do exactly what they did with retail and come out with some additional guidelines that have to be followed in order for the businesses to reopen. Some of the additional requirements that the governor's office put in place yesterday was the fact that gloves are no longer just recommended for staff. They are now required by staff in retail shops dealing with customers and any other work transactions. Another new requirement was to install plexiglass shields at all of the checkout counters. Some of the businesses already had a jump on that. Some of them are now scrambling to find those. They are back ordered, just like the hand sanitation that we're trying to locate. So we do have staff that are looking for additional options and trying to locate those for the business community, as well as the hand sanitizer, because that's been hard to find. They do need to have that at their cash registers and at their entries if they can possibly put it there as well. So we're sending out what leads we can find on where they can locate those. We appreciate the fact that Elizabeth came by with some gloves that the school district is not going to be using, so we'll make those available to the business community tomorrow, actually. One of the other new requirements, and it's interesting that it's in the retail market, is to take and record employee temperatures when they come to work. One of the interesting things about that is it's not required for an office setting unless you have more than 25 employees. So I'm not sure why that difference is in there, but it's definitely now required. Originally, masks for employees was a recommendation. It's now a requirement. Fortunately, we've had a lot of the Manitou residential community making cloth masks. So we have made those available to business owners for themselves, their employees, and their families. We will have some additional cloth masks still available for the visitor market that comes to town once we reopen on Monday. We do have some disposable masks on order, but we're probably still looking at a couple weeks out on those. Some of the business owners will allow them to provide to their customers, And we're going to have a supply at the chamber that we can give out. If we can get some volunteers, we'll also have them handing them out around town, because there are a lot of stores that really, really want to only allow people into stores with masks on. That's not a requirement by the governor at this point, but from a safety standpoint, the more people we can get in masks, the safer it is for all of us. Those are the main changes to the information that was provided to you, and I will send out the updated document from the governor's guidelines to you all. There's also, we've included an employee steps in case there is an exposure and what to do with that notification. Currently, we have, out of the 78 retail stores in downtown, we have 27 of them that are definitely opening on Friday with the new allowance to do so. We have 21 that are going to stay with their online orders at this point. And then we have some that haven't quite made up their minds yet. Does anybody have any questions?
Leslie, can you hear me? This is Judith. Could you repeat those last statistics? I just wanted to jot them down. About the stores opening, I missed a few of those.
We have 27 that are definitely going to open on May 1st. We have 21 that are still staying with their online curbside deliveries only. And then we have 24 others that haven't quite decided what they're doing quite yet. We do know of 2 of those that are not going to open.
Got it. Okay. I missed that last one. Thank you.
Okay.
Go.
Leslie, thank you very much. That was nice. It was informative.
My dog.
Yeah.
Go me. Sorry, just came in from outside.
I do want to recognize Leslie also for her leadership as she's working with all the businesses. I sat in the chamber meeting today, and it was really interesting and very uplifting, because the businesses were all helping each other. I don't have this, do you have that? Can I call somebody for you? And just very supportive as they maneuver through this. So it was very uplifting to watch how they support each other in challenging times. So Leslie, thank you for your leadership. And again, we've been working with Leslie on a regular basis, seeing what we can do to support and help each other and communicate and make sure we're giving the same message out there. So Leslie, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, could you go ahead and pull up my quick presentation, Judy? So you guys received the document yesterday, and we made sure it was part of the new document. As you can imagine, and even after the document, yesterday, we're now on version 2 because there have been new changes that have taken place, some new things that we've had to implement. So this is also a very nimble document that is changing almost daily as we get direction from the governor or others as we move forward. So I just wanted, and again, this is old data, right? We did this, pulled this on Sunday, but it shows the old data that's there. There are some that have extended the stay-at-home orders: Arapahoe, Adams, Jefferson, Boulder, and different counties. They have extended them. Mesa and Eagle has been approved to, and May 4th is the non-critical office-based businesses that may open. And I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening with the PowerPoint, but it looks like some letters have been moved, etc. Go ahead, Judy. Again, just some additional data, but this is old. This was Sunday's information, but I know you guys have the website where you can pull this and look at it every day and see where we are compared to others. Next. So this is the stay-at-home that's been listed on the 27th retail curbside. And so we do have certain places in town that's parking that's for curbside only. It's got 15-minute parking, so we have that in place. And then May 1st starts the retail, and then May 4th, 50%. We've been tracking just like the school district, and I think everybody else right now. We have a team that is tracking every expense that we do. We're being involved with FEMA. We're on telephone calls with them on a regular basis of what we can and cannot put expenses towards. We're tracking time, tracking every expense. We're managing this. They meet weekly to talk about what we can do and look at the expenses accordingly. Budget cuts, and you guys have seen that right now. We're at a 21% of the general fund expenditures. We've reduced capital, reduced operating, purchasing delays, hiring freeze, and part-time pool staff have all been furloughed at this time. These are things that we will be talking about with our staff when we open. We're looking right now tentatively at May 18th. That is when the city of Colorado Springs is looking at opening. Monument will be opening May 4th. Fountain is still considering what day they're opening, but we're looking tentatively May 18th, and it will be limited at that point. But there are certain things that we will require all employees to wear a mask. If they're sick, they will stay home. There's cleaning operations that we're putting in place, and then preparation plans for if there is an exposure. As I mentioned, May 18th, as we look at that, we'll have separate workstations. Telecommuting is still going to be encouraged in every way possible. We have repainted, we've sanitized, we've organized, we've had carpets professionally cleaned. We have all employees wearing non-medical masks. We've given out masks. We'll continue to do that. We do have an order of masks that is coming in. Everybody that comes into City Hall, we will require them to wear a mask if we can get the mask in, which I hope we can. Plexiglass, we ordered those a couple of weeks ago and hope to have them installed within the next week. We have tape placed that indicates 6-foot distancing. And Memorial Hall right now is closed to all events until May 18th, and that may be extended. Communication, wearing masks, Parks and Rec. We're looking at a video that talks about staying your distancing, all of those things that we will put out to encourage employee video, which talks about the education and precautions. Weekly updates. The mayor does a weekly update and will keep the public informed. Businesses, promote local businesses. The schools, we're working with them, and I know the fire and the police are working with them extensively. Community advertise about really talking about keeping it clean, looking at all of those things as we maneuver through this. A Manitou Clean, once we look at really opening up the city, we have a Manitou Clean video that talks about how we're cleaning and what we're doing to protect everybody's health. As I mentioned, the Aquatics and Fitness Center, this is the one thing that we are struggling with of guidance from the State Department. So right now we have said it's closed until further notice. We're waiting for directives, and even if we do open, it will be very limited hours and limited classes to meet the 6-foot distancing requirement. City clerk, every department will have staggering schedules, working remotely as much as possible, allowing e-signatures, council meetings, you guys in your packet see we'll stay Zoom, and then once we come back, you'll see that we've already got a plan in place of what that will look like. That's here, go ahead, you can go to the next one. Court, we're working with the judge daily, how we're going to manage court and what that looks like to make sure we don't have too many people in here at one time. As you can imagine, like Elizabeth said, this is much more it's very challenging, and we've got to make sure that we only have certain number in, that we're managing this, and they're in Memorial Hall. They will not be at city chambers or at council chambers at all because we cannot verify the 6-foot distancing. So they are working through that. We're looking at doing a lot of over the telephone opportunities, but the judge is looking at finance, again, staggered schedules. They have to wear gloves when handling cash and allow e-signatures. We're now putting all software, all pay stubs, et cetera, is going electronic, and that's where that will be collected at this point. Fire department, this is closely monitored, and we're really under the Office of Emergency Management. So we go through what they require us to do, and the chief is managing through this and leading through it, as they're on phone calls on a regular basis, as we know, as they are directed of how to manage. Human Resources will continue telecommuting, and they'll be meeting with employees through Zoom or have one-on-one meetings as needed. We'll go ahead and keep employee education, talk about the mental health as well, talk about opportunities. We send out regular emails about different avenues. There is teleconferencing for counseling if they need it, and provide as much opportunity and as many resources as possible. This is the, if somebody tests positive, and I can say, as you know, we have not had any employees, but this is the protocol that they will follow. Parking, we will resume paid parking as on starting May 1st or May 4th. What we are going to do is use the revenues for May. We think it will be about $5,000 to help the businesses to purchase masks and other things that they need to make sure that it protects our community. So the month of May, where all the money that's collected from the parking, we're going to give to businesses to help them. We'll be working with them with the chamber to help them purchase any supplies that they need to make sure that they stay safe, and that they can, if they require a mask to come into their facilities, they have to provide the mask. So we want to help and encourage that. Let me back up. There was one thing I forgot to mention here. We're looking at cleaning the kiosk multiple times a day. We're looking at social distancing and wiping down the vehicles. I will tell you, we've been meeting with other cities, and it feels like we're thinking of things that they have not thought of yet. People have asked for our comprehensive plan, and we've been sharing that as we maneuver forward. Planning, they will continue to use Zoom meetings for applicants, electronic submissions of plans, applications, and fees, staggered schedules, and OSAC Planning Commission and Historic. I know in the document it talks about May, they may come back, but we talked about that today, and I think we'll continue the Zoom meetings for a period of time. Police, again, they fall under the Office of Emergency Management. They have regular meetings with the Sheriff's Department and El Paso County Public Health. So they fall under what they can and cannot do right now regarding what is directed by the Sheriff's Department. Public Works, we're looking at sanitizing public facilities, parks, and the mineral springs. We've been doing that on a regular basis. Installing signs, we'll continue to do it. We're hoping to install portable hand washing stations. We just found out that they weren't available until November and December, and now we're looking at another option that we just found out today from Roy regarding the porta potties. So we're looking at providing that. We're providing staff with vehicle cleaning guide, cleaning playground equipment at least 3 times a day. Water meter changeouts and obtaining reads, we just put that in place today, so that has been updated. Looking at best practices, cleaning after every event, what the protocol will be and how we'll manage that. Churches, this is what we received from the churches at this point. St. Andrews will continue with the food pantry and they have a very in-depth process to make sure that they are protecting everybody that comes and is in the need of food. And then these are some things that I believe was part of Leslie's. So we can go ahead and move to the next one. And then again, outside organizations, hand washing, if we can find that. A wonderful poster that was developed by a local artist, and Natalie, thanks for her leadership with this, but it really makes it Manitou-like. So we thank you for that leadership as we maneuver forward. I do want to say the managers or the leaders, the department heads, we meet every morning. We're going through what we need to look at, what we missed, what's happened in the last 24 hours. So I cannot thank them enough for their leadership. Many of them have put, or all of them have put in some very long hours over the last couple of weeks as we've been trying to pull together how we reopen and what it looks like to protect both our community, our employees, the businesses, and our visitors as we come through. So I really just want to hands off to them. And as they're working with their employees to make sure, checking in with them to see if they need something, if whatever they may need to support them as we maneuver through this. Our PIO has worked diligently at getting information out to the public, and you guys received that email this week, and I've received various other emails from individuals saying thank you. They appreciate that we have a website that has as much information as we get every day, and it's updated with anything that we can do. We also send out weekly emails to staff, trying to keep them informed of what is happening and keeping them apprised as we maneuver forward. A shout out to all the staff. Working remotely is not always easy. And it's I would say we were not prepared to do that. And when we did it, the staff were very nimble and flexible and have really thought outside the box and have been creative on many ways to make sure that we continue to meet the needs of our community and to be flexible as we do that and to really help them, because working from home at all times is not easy for everybody. And so we're really trying to be aware of that and help them and support them as we go through this. With that, I will open it up for questions. I will say this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's changing daily. We're getting information daily of what we can and should do, sharing information daily with all the city managers that we can communicate with and see how they're managing things and really learning from each other, because this is new to all of us.
Denise, thank you very much for that. I see Mayor Pro Tem has her hand raised. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah. First of all, I was blown away when I read the document you sent to us last night. It was so comprehensive and so creative in its approach, and really, I think it really shows how, when you bring a team together, how productive, incredibly productive that team can be. And in this case, the team has expanded beyond just our city staff, but goes to the school and the business community as well. And I personally find that so rewarding to see and very exciting, and the fact that you have to continue to roll with the punches. So thank you for all that all three of you have done in the community. And I think it really helps keeps the entire community focused and going in, all of us in the same direction, which I think is critical in a time of crisis. So that's good. And then lastly, I would say I have a few little issues that I just have questions about. I don't want to bring them up tonight because they're kind of picky. I will just email them to you because they're just very minor little things that I had questions about. So thank you to all of you.
Great, thank you. Yes, Councilor Chandler, please.
Thank you. First of all, I really apologize that my computer went totally silent during the Incline discussion. So I could hear you, I couldn't see you. I wanted to thank Elizabeth Domain, Leslie Lewis, the Administrator Howell and Deputy Administrator Cheney, what a phenomenal presentation. However you pulled that off. Kudos to all of you. We're very lucky to have you. This question came up last night at our 4-hour OSAC meeting. So I'll ask it here. On page 29 of the original 43-page return to work plan, you mentioned that Public Works was going to put trailhead signs on all of the trailheads. I was wondering if when that was going to happen, if you knew that, and also is the sign going to be the typical sign that we've been seeing around town regarding social distancing?
I think that they were going to mention that at OSAC, and we were going to ask them for their feedback. I don't know where, and I have not received any update on that. So maybe I can talk to Dylan about that, and we can see.
Okay, just to let you know, we did discuss that last night, and the overwhelming consensus was we absolutely do want to see trailhead signs at all the major trailheads. And we're just going to ask that you get with Dylan and then Michael Mayo regarding that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have other comments or questions from council? Sounds like we're all pretty satisfied. I think it was quite a thorough presentation. Denise, I want to thank you and your staff. Elizabeth, to you and yours, and Leslie. I feel pretty good about the precautions that you've all implemented and the visions that you see and the problems that you've anticipated and focused on. So thank you very much.
Mayor, may I just say, please,
yes.
I would, any suggestions or thoughts as you look at this, please send them to me. As I said, this is a breathing document, living, breathing document. We're changing it daily, and we are really looking for suggestions. So if there's something we missed, I am open to having you send that to me.
Great. Great. Thank you very much.
May I say something?
Yes, Councilor Wolf, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hi. I don't know if this is practical, but just to throw it out there, Denise, it seems to me that if the stores all had those sanitary hand wipe things, like they have in King Soopers, but those are the ones you're supposed to wipe your cart. If you had the kind to wipe your own hands, the shop owners might feel a little better, because that way there's less likely of getting all these germs as the person wanders through and touches everything. That's just an option.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. That said, I think we can move on to council correspondence. Anyone on council who'd like to start off? Mayor Pro Tem Fortune? Oh, you're on mute. Nancy, you're mute.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I know that Judith has brought this up before, but I think it definitely
You're breaking up.
I can't. Yeah.
Nancy, you're breaking up.
She's gone.
Yeah, Nancy, you're frozen in time.
She might have got kicked off.
Maybe. Judy, can you give us any status on Nancy Fortune's station?
I think this is what happens when you have internet connection issues. It just freezes up on,
Okay.
And then they usually drop off and then log back in. Or sometimes the internet connection gets better. So, oh, there she goes. She'll probably just automatically come back into it.
Councilor Chandler, I think you had your hand up next.
Thank you. I missed a large portion of the incline discussion, so it's just I really want to thank City council for taking a very measured approach with regards to the last piece of the discussion that I was able to major snafu. We successfully distancing planted 100 trees in Manitou Springs on Saturday, and we're able to socially distancing celebrate Barack Ben Amit's birth to all of the trader. I just want to give a shout out to OSAC. We had a 4-hour meeting last night, and I want to tell you that our March meeting, to everybody on OSAC, kudos up for not having a March meeting. That's all I've got.
Great, thank you. Who'd like to go next? Susan, please.
Thanks. Mine is brief. I did get quite a few, as all the rest of you did, Incline Council correspondence. I definitely read all of those and have made sure that Judy Morgan has those too. I think that those who are participating on this meeting tonight saw a very measured approach going forward. And I hope that you will share that with your neighbors and continue to send those questions in to Dole and Roy as we move forward, and obviously City Council too. We can forward them for you. I also participated in the Transportation and Parking Board meeting this morning. It was a great meeting. They did a great job. Tons of leadership there between Roy and Bill Kerner and all the members of the board. They really talked about short-term and long-term solutions for parking and looked at the city needs as a whole and really put residents, I think, first. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that they're really doing a great job. And Roy, thank you for your leadership, because I was on that board before I was on council. And it's just, the progress is really great. And I know that the city really does appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Susan.
I am, thank you. I just, there was something in the weekly report update that Denise provides every Friday, indicating that the planning staff is lacking certain certifications. And I wondered if I could find out what that was talking about. And then the other thing was in that report as well, and we can pick up on this for an agenda item at another time, obviously, but I just wanted to mention, I saw that it said, quote, the communications team, and something about the communications team is responsible for responding to calls or complaints or questions from citizens. And I thought that was so good to hear. I don't know who's on this team, and I'd love to hear more about it, but I'd really like there to be statistics kept by the city staff as to who gets inquiries from residents and the nature of the inquiry and when they got a call back or an email back, and that kind of follow-up, since, you know, the weekly report has all this wonderful information on, you know, how many checks got deposited that day, that week, and how many meetings somebody might have gone to. But I'd really like to see statistics on our responsiveness to citizens, because I know that was Mayor Graham's campaign message on the campaign trail, is making sure our staff is responsive to our residents. And if we had some data on that, that would, I think, be helpful. So really, that was just a comment, but can I just find out, if I could, from Denise, what's the certification that we're lacking on planning?
Let me grab Christine. Can Christine come in and answer that real quick? I think I thought it was, and I can't pull it up right now, Julie, but I believe it stated that there was some flooding, and that they're looking at getting some online classes taken. Yeah. So I can definitely send that to you. How about that? I'll just go ahead and send it.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I was just interested to know what kind of certifications. I didn't know if somebody's going to have to take a class or go to school, or what it would cost, or why we need it. I was just curious, but that's fine if we handle it through email. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then let me just mention on the communications, that is really from Facebook and Nextdoor. If you'll see us responding to those right now, where before we were not responding, they were just kind of going. So that is the communications team. They're watching that Nextdoor and Facebook and most of social media. It's not individuals calling in.
Oh, then yeah, then what I'm talking about is I'm talking about a whole different thing then. I'm just talking about gossip in my neighborhood that staff isn't responsive in a timely manner to concerns that are raised in the community. And I thought, let's have some statistics. So if I have somebody yelling at me that staff doesn't bother to call them back, and I've been complaining for years about X, Y, and Z violation or X, Y, and Z pothole or whatever, I'd like to just be able to say, we're actually doing really well. Average time to get back to a resident is 3 days or whatever it is. I don't want to just know that, sometimes we write to people on Facebook.
Great, and I would ask two things. Is when we get ready to do a see-click fix, hopefully that will be going out pretty soon, which then somebody will take a picture, send it, and then we'll know exactly when we responded, and we'll be able to give you statistics at that point. That's not quite live yet, but I would say if you hear from nobody has responded, I would ask you that you just give them my number or that you send me a quick email and we will follow up immediately.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Great. Very good. Councilman Shady, we haven't heard from you.
I don't have any reports. Thank you.
Okay. You don't have any picture on the screen either. So you're a man of mystery. I don't have a whole lot. I do want to, I'd like to commend the staff tonight for the briefings we got. I thought they were very fine quality. I would hope that both sets of those slides will be easily accessible to the public. If you give that just a thought. I want to commend Councilor Chandler for her role in the tree planting and please extend our appreciation to everybody you worked with.
Thank you.
Generally, it seems like it's been a good week in general. I had noticed that there's it seems like there's been a lot, several issues that have used a lot of city staff time. The planning department had the concerns expressed by Mr. Spraggins. I know we have to be responsive to constituents, and I like that in general, certainly. I do think we should try and be careful as to how we get involved in things and how much work we end up saddling on the staff. Staff is stretched pretty thin with the virus and all the other problems we have. So somewhere there's a balance there. So please use your best judgment. I would appreciate that. Other than that, I think things are, considering the fact that we're in crisis, I think we're doing really well. I'm proud of the work that you're all doing. So that's all I've got. Has Mayor Pro Tem Fortune been able to join us back, Judy?
Yes, I got her back on the panelist by phone.
Okay, so hi Nancy, you got cut off. So if you can go ahead, we're just finishing up council correspondence now.
That's okay. I will bring up my concerns again in the future. I didn't hear I just got back on, so I didn't hear if the discussion continued in any way. So my only other question is, does anyone know Mr. Pozusta, John Pozusta, I think is his name?
I think
I know he's the guy who posts on Facebook all the time with the
old photo.
Yeah. Susan Wilbert knows him.
Yeah,
Susan?
I know.
Great. Great, because he was one of the people that had expressed an interest in applying for the match committee, and Judy was looking for his for his email address to send him notification that he can submit his packet if he desires to apply for the match committee. So, Susan, if you could send Judy his email, that would be great.
Will do.
Great.
Thanks.
Well, I think we've covered correspondence. I would ask now that we do the city administrator's report. Mr. Cheney?
Yeah, I just too want to give a shout out to Mrs. Chandler and the tree group, environmental group, as well as Parab, the pollinator group, and Manitou Garden Club also doing the gardens. They're doing a great job out there daily, getting everything ready. So it's looking beautiful in Manitou. Also, some pool staff have been helping out with the parks. So I think we made a lot of progress getting ready. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Denise?
Yeah, I also want to shout out for the tree planting. It was fun to get outside, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of that. So thanks. as we planted the trees, and I know there'll be more. A couple of big things coming up on the agenda, and some of them you have directed. One is the Discovery Flood Study that we will be presenting, I think on May 5th. The e-mobility, which I know you guys asked us to look at and bring back an ordinance. We're pulling that together. It kind of took a back seat for a little bit, so we are looking at getting that back to you. And then the municipal code concerning conditional use violations, you asked that about a week ago. So we've been working with our attorney to see how we can put that together as we move forward. I do want to do a shout. Oh, and then Councillor Wolf, I did just receive the Christine, and it is what I thought it was. It was a floodplain management certification. So we're working on getting that certified and what that would take to make that happen. So that's the one certification that we don't have. I believe that used to be filled by the previous public works director. And so we need now to have another person fill that. So that's what we're working on.
Oh, so Karen Berthold doesn't have that certification?
No, I don't believe she has that certification. It was filled by Shelley before. So we're looking at what that looks like and who will fill that. So planning is working on that now.
Thank you so much.
Do that. And then I just want to give a shout out to all the employees and to the department heads. As with all of you, it has also been challenging with the employees and working remote and teleworking and all of those things that come. With that comes stress, and they have managed it amazingly well, and they continue to serve the community. And a shout out to all of them and what they've been doing. And then I have for is the trailhead signs and follow up with Dylan and Mike Mayo. So we'll do it that. Councillor Wolf mentioned the stores and wipe hands and see what we can purchase there. Press release for the applicants, for the city council applicants. We'll get that put together. And those are the comments that I have to follow up on. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Well, that concludes the agenda for this evening. So we're adjourned. Thank you all very much. You have a good evening. Take care.